Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, I love this dude. Although he didn't show up for the cold plunge when we were out in Sundance, we did a financial mastermind out there, and him and I were talking. And he's got a behemoth of a brother, and we were chatting it up. And I was like, "Hey man," we looked outside. It was cold. I was like 1 degree, and I was like, and I was trying to act like I was cool. And I wanted to make some good friends, and I wanted to impress my new friend, Kurt. And I was like, "Hey, man, let's go cold plunge." And he was like, "Oh, I do cold plunges all the time." I said, "Cool, let's meet in the morning. What time we meeting?" 6 o'clock. I said, "Okay." Woke my butt up 6 o'clock in the morning. It was so cold. It was 1 degree. All of you out there listening, I want you to think about 1 degree outside. What are you doing? You're sleeping. You got a sleeping bag. You're by the fire, whatever it is. My butt was out in a robe from the hotel, out by the this little pond, 1 degree, and I'm waiting, and I don't see Kurt, and I'm like, "Oh, good, Kurt doesn't show up. I'm so glad because I ain't going in this water." And then I walk into the gym. My other buddy's like, "What are you doing up this early? What are you doing?" He's like, "Are you going to work out with me?" I was like, "Heck no, I'm not working out with you." I was supposed to do the cold plunge with Kurt and his brother, and he's like, "I'm doing it with you." So we walk out. I'm going to say it again, 1 degree. We walk out and we jump in this water. I've never been so damn cold in my life. My body was burning. It was the craziest thing it was amazing. And we had a good time. We went all the way under the whole 9. And then here comes Kurt into the meeting the next day, later on that day. And he looked at me and he was all warm. I was still cold. And he was like, "Oh man, I didn't know that you really meant it." I really meant it, Kurt, because I wanted to be your friend. But I'm excited because, for me, that type of connection point with people is what my whole life has been about. It's been about being kind to people, contributing to every single person, making a ton of friends, and then just staying curious about what they do. And as I got to know Kurt, it was great because I got to know him before I got to know what he did. He's an authority in real estate. He's the guy. He's the go-to in real estate, especially in the Arizona market. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, his heart, like it just comes through, and you're going to see this. It comes through the screen. It comes through your headphones, and you're just going to want to hang out with him. Although you're not going to want to go on a cold plunge because he's not going to show up. So please welcome to the show the real estate authority, Mr. Kurt Nacewicz, and I said it right.
Yeah, funny story about that cold plunge, man. I made up for it the next day. The next day I went in and I sent you a video of me in there. And man, if I had known you were really going to be there, I would have been there 30 minutes early. So, yeah, man, funny times, and really happy that we connected.
How cold was it for you? I mean, because it was burning my body.
Yeah. So when I usually do it, I'm inside. Inside an area, right? Like I'm inside actually, like the cold plunge is inside. So you don't have the 1 degree weather outside. But usually when I go, it's 40 degree water. So I don't really know what it was in Utah, but the water actually seemed a little bit warmer when you were in the water than outside.
Oh my gosh. It was crazy, man. I kept telling people it was like 40 below in the water. They were like, "Kelly, that would have been ice." I was like, "You don't understand." I was on, and is it Mars that has cold water, or is it another planet? Do you know?
Sure. Didn't you say you had an icicle on your dread?
Oh, I did. I had icicles on my dread immediately and on my beard. I have the video. You have to check my Instagram for it. It was incredible. The thing that stuck out with me with you and with your brother was the relatability. Because a lot of times when people are high flying and doing what they do, especially like in the real estate game, which everyone wants to get into, everyone wants to know about, everyone's an expert at it. Even if they've read like one article, they're an expert. But the thing that was amazing is you're obviously a master at your craft, but you connect with people on a cellular level. You take the time and you really make people feel important. Where did this come from, Kurt? And was it your parents beating it into you? Or was this just something that was natural?
I think it was just natural. Whenever I meet people, I'm more curious about them than anything anything that I have to say. And it comes from a genuine place. You know, I want to get to know what the other person's like. I'm curious what they can teach me or what they've been through. So it's not something that I even really am aware that I'm doing. It kind of just comes through naturally, you know? And I think that's why we connected, Kelly, because I noticed that from you right off the bat. I was like, wait, why are you asking me so many questions about me? I'm usually the one asking all the questions about you, you know?
Well, and help us to understand this too, because I think one of the biggest components, as far as like in the real estate game, right, is resilience. And I think this is a muscle that most people don't realize, number one, that they even have. If they understand that they have it, they don't know how to build it. They don't know how to work it, and they don't realize how important it is to every single bit of business. And let's define that resilience right off the bat. Resilience is nothing more than the ability to snap back into your natural form. Meaning you get smacked upside the head, Kurt, right? In real estate, you get smacked upside the head. The deal doesn't work. It goes sideways. You lose you lose the investor, you lose the money, whatever it is. And then you're able to snap back into, I'm Kurt, I'm here, and I'm going to continue to serve you. Where did you discover resilience, and then how have you been able to work that muscle as you've gone along?
You know, I think when I become resilient just from having goals that they're bigger than what the problem is in front of me. I've always kind of been able to zoom out and kind of see the big picture. You know, when I first got started in real estate, like the first year was brutal. I didn't have a lot of success at all, but I knew that every single day I was getting better at what I was doing. I was learning more skills, and that, you know, if I zoomed out in 3, 4, 5 years, it wouldn't really matter. So I guess I learned that it's just a part of the process, you know, the ups and downs.
So what would you say, like right now, because we're in that weird kind of space, right? As far as like the real estate side, everything like that, we're seeing that, you know, interest rates are rising. They're talking recession. We're already in it. From everybody, all my financial friends are like, it's already there. What things would you say for the person who maybe doesn't understand real estate, but to get prepared for in these next 6 months, because you get to see it, you see it, you're on the inside. So what are 3 kind of actionable things that a person could do to kind of get themselves prepared as they come along in these next 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just like an average investor, I would say to wait a little bit, to wait for good opportunities, and just to be more conservative with how you're buying and valuating properties. The past like 2 years were just so heavily inflated. There was so much money pumped into the economy that like the prices just weren't making a whole lot of sense. So, I mean, still historically, we're at like pretty low inventory rates, especially for Phoenix. But I would say just there's going to be some good opportunities. So what I'm doing is I'm building up capital and basically only taking on properties now that make a whole lot of sense, that I'm basically either stealing or that, you know, just has enough equity in it to make sense. So really what I'm doing is just kind of waiting and seeing right now.
What's helped you to understand the long game? Because this is a thing that I noticed in you right away, like your relationship with your brother. Like it was probably, I mean, it was such a cool thing to see the way that you and your brother interact. And I realized from those things and watching, I was always watching people, and I could see the love that you had for your brother. I could see that you weren't about quick, fast, hustling, grinding kind of relationships. It was like I watched Kurt, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk to people, but every time I have a conversation, it's gonna be intentional. It's actually gonna mean something, right? So, number one, where did that come from? And then 2, how does that fare in your business as you move forward? Because a lot of people are like, if you do that, then you're gonna leave money on the table. And my side is like, if you're negotiating, you always need to leave money on the table. That way, the person has money to be able to invest with you again.
Wow, that's a really good question, Kelly. You asked some amazing questions. Where did I come up with the long game? I just think I've always thought that way. I always think it's better to kind of delay gratification, and I know that things take time if something happens really quickly, then I know that it's not worth as much. And to kind of translate that into business, there's been some sellers that I've talked to for over 3 years before we ever did any business because I knew they had a problem and I knew that they really needed me. And I was okay with calling them, 4 times a year just to touch base, build a relationship with them. And one house in particular, literally, it was 3.5 years I had been talking to them to the day that we actually did a deal together. So I think it just comes from just realizing that, things take time.
So who taught you that? Like, was it your parents talking to you about it? Was that something that were they having conscious conversations? Because I've had these with my daughter. My daughter's 13 years old, and sometimes she's been hanging out with someone, and I'm like, you know what, baby? I mean, I don't want to tell you not to hang out with them because that's going to cause you to hang out with them, but I just start asking her questions, right? And so, I mean, what was your parents' style? Was it super disciplined? Was it kind of do your own thing and kind of figure it out?
It was more do your own thing and figure it out. My parents were super, they were kind of hands off. They let me figure it out myself, and I'm grateful for that.
So take me to the relationship with your brother, because this one, again, like when I talk about it, I can't say it enough, man. I mean, seeing you guys together, and it's funny because if you can imagine Kurt's brother, like Kurt's brother is like Thor. I swear I made a couple jokes and I thought he was going to strangle me. But the bond between brothers is a big thing for me because me and my brother are best friends. And I think that a lot of times I'll meet people and I'll ask them about their brothers, their sisters, and they'll be like, yeah, they live here, they live there. Do you hang out? No, I mean, not that much. And I saw this crazy bond with you and your bro, like, and it's just this mutual respect, right? I could see that you were proud of him. He's your little brother. And I could see that you were proud of him. I could see that he was thirsting for you to be proud of him, which I am the same way with my brother.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about you guys' relationship growing up and then how it's blossomed as you've gone along.
Man, I've always been really, really close with my brother. It started off, obviously, like we were playing sports together, and, I'm 2.5 years older than him, so I always knew that he looked up to me, and I wanted to always set a good example for him. So, early on it was like we'd play football together. I would show him how to like work out, and then he went like crazy with that, and now he's super into working out and super big. But that trip in particular was something that I wanted to do for a long, long time because I had kind of really changed when I moved to Arizona, and he was like, kind of always curious what I'm doing, what's been working, and I just wanted to basically expose him to some of the things that had helped me become the person that I am. So I just always am conscious of trying to set a good example for him, because I know he really looks up to me.
What is the most important thing to you as a big brother that your little brother does? And I'll put it in context here. I'm a little brother. My brother could call me at any time. I'll answer the phone anytime. He'll give me a hard time because he'll be like, no, you don't. But he could call me at any time and it will just light up my day. He could just tell me he's proud of me and it'll take me to a whole different place in my life. He'll call me and be like, yo, great job on X. And I'll be like, really? It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I swear to you, Kurt, like I could have Derrick Henry call me. You all out there listening know that I'm a Titans fan. Yeah, I could have Derrick Henry call me and be like, yo, Kelly, you're the man. And I'll be like, cool, thanks, Derrick. And I'd get off the phone and my brother would call me and be like, yo, you're the man. I'd be like, yes. And I would just run through a wall. So that for me is something that is so valuable from a big brother, from a little brother's perspective, coming to a big brother. Like, call me, text me, tell me that you're proud of me. Tell me what is the thing that you thirst for the most as a big brother coming from your little brother?
God, really good question. Yeah, I think just to basically take the advice that I give, obviously I want to make sure that I'm a good role model first and foremost. But once I believe that I am, it's actually listening and taking action on some of the advice or some of the guidance that I give him. And really just being, when Max asks me what I want or what he should be doing, I'm able to just, tell him from an open-hearted place. So I would say, um, advice, yeah. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Now, when you guys are, have you guys always been connected? Have you guys always been like boys? From the very get go. Were you guys super competitive? Did you used to whoop up on him when you were when he was younger? And did you?
I did. Yeah. When he was much smaller, I was just always like wanted the best out of him. So I wouldn't hold back because I was his older brother. I would go as hard as I could, and he would gain a lot from that. And I remember even when he went to college and played football, he would bring up the fact that like, oh, Kurt was so hard on me, da da da. But it turned out that it was good because I, became this big football player now. And so I never took it easy on him. I just tried to get the best out of him.
Talk to us too about being hard on somebody else. A lot of times you're hard on yourself, right? And talk to us about how that has helped and translated into your business, right? Because we were just talking about it yesterday. I was talking with a friend, and I was saying that I have a lot of friends that come from the Mormon faith, and they went on missions. And in their mission for 2 years, they knocked on the door and got the door slammed in their face for 2 years. People yell at them or not want to talk to them and things like that. It wasn't all that way, but it was a lot of it. And what it created was the resilience and the perseverance to work through. And they were like, I've already heard no, so I'm good. Talk to us about those things and how you've translated them into your business that you learned maybe from sports or from growing up in your relationship with your brother.
Yeah. You're going to get no. I mean, that's just part of it. And, when I was growing up, I played 3 or 4 different sports. So it was waking up early and working out and having training at like 5 in the morning. So early on, it just taught discipline. But I think eventually you realize that if you want to get to what you want, like you're going to have to deal with a lot of adversity. You're going to be told no. People are going to laugh at what your dreams are. But it doesn't matter because as long as you believe in them, then that's what's going to push you forward. So,
what opportunities are you seeing right now in the climate that we're in right now and the changes, right? So again, like a friend of mine, we were just talking this morning, and I was saying that for me, I see an opportunity in W-2 businesses, and he was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, because everybody right now is talking about being an entrepreneur, and not everybody can be an entrepreneur, right? Not everybody got the stomach for it. You got the stomach for it when you got the cash flow. But when you ain't got the cash flow, a lot of times, I mean, the rubber hits the road and the person's like, this isn't as sexy as what I thought it was, right? Yeah. So what I'm seeing is as we're moving forward, and I talked about this at the, at the Money Multiplier, I said, in the coming years, I see that, W-2 businesses where people were saying before, I got to just be my own boss, I got to work in that you're going to see a resurgence of this. You're going to see a renaissance of service because there's no service right now, right? People are constantly apologizing. We don't have enough people to be able to serve you. Therefore, that's why you get bad service. No. I could tell you this. The reason why we get bad service, Kurt, is because that person who is giving you the service has chose not to give you good service. It's not because there's not enough of you, because even if there's one of you, you can still give good service. So for me, I see that opportunity. In your space, in the real estate space, what type of opportunities are we seeing right now that if we're prepared for, then we can, we can have a lot of advantages?
Love it. So one thing that I'm preparing for is, the past 2 years we had historically low interest rates, like 2-3%, which is just unheard of. And, right now we're all the way up to 5-6%. I think it's 5.3 actually. But I think learning creative finance and basically being able to take over those loans that are at 2 to 3% in the next 5 to 10 years will be like free money, because you're never going to see interest rates that low again. And with how high inflation's going, it's almost like free money. So one thing I'm preparing for is really honing my skills on creative financing and basically buying properties and targeting properties that have these super low interest rates and just taking over the payments. So that's one thing that I'm really focused on in real estate. And to compound on what you said, I have one of my friends who's a swimming pool builder, and he could not be any more busy. Like there is such a shortage in the trades right now. So I mean, if you're looking to get into plumbing, electrical, or any of the trades, I mean, it's a good time.
How are you feeling about your Arizona sports right now?
Well, I'm from Connecticut originally, so I actually only moved out here 4 years ago. So I'm a, like a
So
New
you're
York.
so you're not claiming your Arizona time.
I mean, I'm like they're like my second. I have to root for them a little bit out here.
Can
But
we can we talk
honestly,
can we talk
that's
about your
Knicks.
can we talk about your East Coast? Can we talk about your Boston Celtics? Are you a Boston fan?
New York Knicks.
New York. Oh, good Lord. That's going to be a short conversation there, Kurt.
I know, man. Knicks, Mets, Jets. Not a whole lot of
Wow.
sports teams.
But you're optimistic. Okay, let me ask this because my buddy Colin is he's a very optimistic person, but he's a Jets fan. How much of your optimism and your optimism in life has come from being a Jets fan? Because you have to be optimistic as a Jets fan. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
got to be in that place. Has that helped you?
It's definitely helped me because I'm a loyal fan, even though they suck. So no matter how bad they are, I'm just like, this is my team. I'm rolling with them. I don't have any optimism towards the Jets. I just know being a fan is basically rooting for a loser. But that's cool. I'm cool with it. We had a good draft this year, so.
What about your Knicks? Were you excited about Brunson coming, and did you think that there was some tampering with it?
I'm excited about the Knicks. Honestly, I haven't kept too much up with sports since I came out to Arizona. I had like a big shift in my life 4 years ago when I moved out here, and just kind of took away some bad habits. And as far as sports goes, yeah, I mean, I hope the Knicks get back into the playoffs. But to be honest, I'm not really too well versed in what's been going on recently.
Talk to us. I know you alluded to it, man. So you had a shift 4 years ago. Like, for everyone out there listening, I think everyone out there listening probably had 2 years ago, they all had a shift. They had those kind of things. My wife and I seem to have a shift every like year and a half, 2 years. We get some bomb dropped on us, or, we get kicked in the teeth or whatever it is. I think that more people are going to be inspired, Kurt, not by your authority in real estate, but more about the challenges that you've been able to overcome. So, 4 years ago, moving across the country, that's a major thing. But there were some major things that happened before that, or help that to be able to transpire, and that you were able to work through. Can you talk to us about those things?
Yeah. Basically, when I was in my 20s and growing up, I grew up in like a super blue collar town. So, all I knew were my friends and my dad, like working, backbreaking work. And that's kind of what I viewed as, work really. And I just, I did a whole lot of stuff that I really didn't want to do, that I didn't choose to do. It was kind of just more brought up on me, basically just viewing what my community is doing and just following suit. So I just kind of realized when I was like 26, 27 that I didn't really choose anything that I had going in my life. So 2018, 2017, I decided that I wanted to move. I needed a fresh start. I needed to kind of change my surroundings. And, while I was thinking about it, it was hard because my whole family's back east, and I had a girlfriend at the time. I had a job, pretty good job considering. And I remember just wanting to really move to Arizona. And one moment in particular stood out to me, and that was when I was talking to my neighbor, who just a regular like Tuesday, met with him, told him that I was thinking about moving to Arizona, but I wasn't sure. And he looked at me like in the eyes, and I still remember like the look in his face. He had these tears coming through his eyes, and I could just see. And he said, Kurt, I wish I moved to South Carolina, and I never did. If you want to move to Arizona, you should do it. And that was like a really a life altering simple moment, but I just saw the amount of regret in his eye, in his eyes, and I didn't want that, later in life. So right then and there, I knew I was going to move. So 2018, I packed up my car and drove all the way to Arizona by myself.
So talk to us too, because I mean, becoming an entrepreneur, right? This is what we talked about earlier, and I want to dig into this part of it because the shiny part of being an entrepreneur nowadays is like, oh, if you don't like your boss, you just need to start your own company and be an entrepreneur, right? Can you talk to us about the dirty, the nasty, the part that people don't talk about? Because we hear it on social media. We hear it everywhere. It's like, no, don't work for anybody. Be your own boss. Make your own schedule. And then, Kurt, can you tell us the real story?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. I mean, you're taking on, like, literally, I had to learn every single aspect of my business before I was able to delegate any of it. And what I think a lot of people don't see is the cost that it takes to actually run a business and all the stuff that you do behind the scenes. It's not sexy having a $60,000-$80,000 Amex bill that you got to pay every month. That's a lot of the stuff that people don't see. And, just trying to plug all these pieces into play. And kind of what I realized in business is nothing's ever going to be like done and completely perfect. Everything's always changing. People are changing. Their moods change. So yeah, there's just a whole lot of stress that goes into it that I wasn't always aware of.
So if you were to, hey, Kurt, if you were able to go back, right? If you're able to go back, or let's not even go back. Let's just take that 25-year-old kid, bright-eyed, that's about to start in. Tell them the first 3 things that they should do to start their business that you wish you would have known and put in play.
Wow. Really good question. For one, I would have hired a coach or mentor sooner. I would have paid to cut the time to learn. That's probably the first thing I would have done. The second thing, which I did, was figure out what it is you want to do, what business you're really passionate about, because if it's not something that you want to do every day, then it's not going to work because it's just such a grind day in and day out. And then another thing would probably be hire quicker. I was a little bit slow to hire people. I did a lot of the low-level jobs for longer than I should have.
What was some of the low-level jobs that you did that you were like, I would much rather be, I'd much rather be superhero Kurt in what Kurt does, right? So what were some of those things, man?
Yeah, I mean, just to name a few, cold calling. So I would cold call a gigantic list. I mean, we would pull information of homeowners in Phoenix, and I would basically just cold call random people all day long. And then I realized that I could pay a virtual assistant $3 an hour to do that. And I thought, man, that's a $3 an hour activity that I'm doing. So that was one thing. Just like going to Home Depot, picking up supplies, ordering insurance for the properties that we buy. What else? Ordering hard money. Just kind of more admin stuff, I would say, is a lot of the low-level tasks I did. And then just cleaning the office after it was done, filling up the water jug. I mean, you name it, right? Then I realized that they have a service you can pay for to get that taken care of. But yeah, just to name a few. I mean, those are some of the low-level tasks that I was able to delegate out and just honestly just be happier working that way.
So Kurt, help me too, because I think vocabulary and vernacular are things that if you know them in the industry, you have the tendency to get a little further. I made a joke when we were there in Sundance, and I was talking about arbitrage, and I got really intimidated by that word, right? And just because I heard a person say it and they were in the financial world, and I thought, wow, they're really smart because they said arbitrage. I don't know what the word means. Then I Googled it, and it was just like the difference between two numbers. It was just addition and subtraction, right?
Too fancy about it, right?
It was easy, right? And once I learned it, then I was able to speak in that realm. Can you talk to us about some vocabulary and vernacular that, that the common person that maybe isn't in the real estate game, or maybe they're thinking of dipping their toes into the investing, that they should understand these words? And can you let us know what those words mean? Because, I mean, even in the financial literacy world that I'm in, in the financial literacy world, a lot of times people want to make financial literacy so complicated, so people will have to rely. And once you realize that it's pretty simple, like take in money and spend less than what you take in, and then put away some of the money. Or I say it like a cycle like this: do what you love, make money, keep the money. When you keep the money, you get to keep doing what you love, then make the money, keep the money, and then do what you love, and then make the money, keep the money. And it's a cycle, right? It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But I didn't know this because I didn't know the words. What are some of the words and, vocabulary and vernacular that a person can verse themselves on? Because I think that, am I correct on this? Every single person out there that's listening should be invested at some place in real estate.
Absolutely. I think it's the greatest investment that you can make. I have quite a few rentals now, and it's like every single month, whether I work or I don't work, I'm getting passive income. So a few words that you should know in real estate, or ones that I didn't know when I got started. I come up from the fix and flip world, so they have what's called the ARV, and that just stands for after repair value. And what that's telling you is what you can sell the house for after it's renovated and fixed up. Another term would be earnest money. So when you go to buy a house, you need to put earnest money down, which is essentially just a deposit. It's a deposit of $1,000 that says I'm going to be buying this house. Some other vocabulary. I learned about what a hard money loan was, and that really changed things for me. That's basically just using somebody else's money and getting a loan not in your name. It's basically against the asset. So they're loaning against the asset that you're buying instead of basically underwriting you as a person. So a lot of the loans that I get now, they don't look into me. They don't pull my credit score. They just look at the property I'm buying and the price I'm buying it for. Based on that, they'll give me an interest-only loan. So if you hear the term hard money loan, that's basically just a loan to fix and flip a property.
Stop right there, because I think I could hear the listeners out there that are like, hold on, because you just took us down a road. And what I love about it is you're an absolute genius. And that's why that's why when you have questions about real estate and real estate investing, that's why you need to go to Kurt. But you just made it sound so simple, and you were like, yeah, it's just, okay, I'll give you an example. Yeah. One of my friends said that she was a Paul Mitchell distributor, Paul Mitchell products, Paul Mitchell distributor. Okay. Cousin comes over to her house, goes in the bathroom, comes back out running, so excited. She's like, oh my gosh, I just used this on my hair. What's that? And she shows the bottle. And my friend who owns the Paul Mitchell distributorship, who's around Paul Mitchell all the time, who's constantly selling Paul Mitchell, and it's just everywhere in her house, everywhere in her life, she's like, oh, that's just Paul Mitchell. And her cousin was like, you are such a brat because you are so spoiled. Because to you, it's just Paul Mitchell. To me, it's the greatest thing that I've ever touched in my entire life. Okay? So we're rewinding real quick, Kurt, because you just went into hard money. And you said, you can get a loan and someone not check your credit. Yeah. I mean, take us through this. Like if I'm a 4-year-old and you needed to explain, maybe 5 years old, they're a 5-year-old. Take us through this part of it, because I think a lot of times people don't realize the things that are available to them just because they don't understand the words. And write it down if you're listening out there, hard money.
Yeah. So like a lot of the properties that fix and flippers buy or that we buy are not livable. I mean, I had a house where half of the house burnt down and it was leaning over. So you're not going to be able to get a loan from a conventional bank that way. So basically, if I were to dumb down what a hard money loan is, they are lending up to a certain amount of what the house is worth to you. And it doesn't matter who it is that is actually getting the loan, because they're protected by the house itself. Perfect example, right? You get a house that is worth $350,000. You buy it for $200,000. You're going to get a loan for the full $200,000, because they know even if you default or disappear or go somewhere, they can just take the house over from you and sell it and make money. So in its simplest form, it's just a loan based on an asset, not you.
I love these kind of things, Kurt, because again, it's just something that is in your world and you understand and you go through. But I think a lot of times there's such a huge barrier, right? There's such a huge barrier because of sometimes it's environmental, sometimes it's because of the people that we hang with. How important, you talked about a coach, right? And having coaches and things like that. How important has it been for you putting yourself around different people to help your perspective to be able to, widen or expand?
So much, so much. Changing who you surround yourself with is everything. I mean, they say it's cliche to say, but you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And the conversations that I'm having with the people that I'm around sound crazy to the people that I grew up with. So I always try to stay around positive people. I don't like to be around people that are gossiping or talking about other people. I try not to really bring anybody up in a negative light ever. So that's kind of one thing that I look for. And then I always try to find somebody who's on the same mission as me. So we have the same future together. It's not that we share some past, right? I still have friends like that, but the people that I surround myself with daily, we're building and growing something together. We have a shared future. And when you just surround yourself with people like that, even when you're having a bad day, they pick you up. So it's just, there's so much to that.
So Kurt, who do you let in to be able to see the other side, right? Because when you're in the investing world, when you're in the real estate, especially flying at the levels that you are, you have to, not that you have to put on a face, you don't have to do that, but you're staying positive, all those things. Who do you allow in to be able to see the Kurt when maybe he's down a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, family and friends. That's pretty much it. People that I've known for my whole life, and when I came to Arizona, I only had like one friend that I knew previously out here, so I kind of have my own little world out here. And then when I fly back home to Connecticut, those people have known me, much longer. But when I come back, they always say, you've changed so much. You've changed so much, and I take pride in that because it's for the better. But if I have anything to, be vulnerable about, it's my 2 or 3 closest friends out here, or my family and friends back east.
So Kurt, I was just talking with a friend, I believe it was yesterday, and she was asking me, about business, things like that. And we were talking about it, and I said, honestly, if I was to go back and I was to do it again, which I don't want to because I'm really excited about the things that have already happened, so I want to live now. Yeah. But I said, if I did go back, the first thing that I would do when I started a business, I would have, even before I did anything, I would have started a podcast. And she was like, why would you do that? And I said, honestly, like for so long as a business, I waited for other people to validate maybe the information. And she goes, what do you mean validate? And I said, well, if I got an article written up on me in the newspaper, but you're waiting on those things, right? And I said, with a podcast, number one, you can interview amazing people, be around great people, and they could bring so much wisdom to you. And the other part is you can really, you don't have to wait till somebody writes an article about you. That would have been like the first thing, right? That I would have done as far as operationally. Now, the other thing that I was very fortunate to do is get a hold of an accountant. Like I paid more for my accountant than, most people did, but they set me up in a way that, was where I wanted to go. And I look at it now and I'm like, man, if there was a couple of things, for me in starting a business that would have meant so much. If you were to look back now, right, we'll go back, or even a kid that's sitting in front of you that's about to start, what things would you tell them to get in order that aren't the shiny things, that aren't the, exciting things that you would say? Like, I was just talking with a girl today, and she's doing, her name is Akila. So Akila, if you're listening out there, I love you. And we were talking about her avatar, like figure out and find out who your ultimate guest is, where they live, what they look like, where they hang out, and then go hang out in those places, and guess what? You'll attract that person. I wish I would have understood it, but I didn't. what are the things that Kurt wishes that he would have understood?
Well, I think one thing I wish I understood was that you're never going to fully understand it. And getting clear on what the vision is that you're working towards. For when I first got started, I really didn't know like what the end goal looked like what success looked like to me. I wasn't like really totally sure. So I think like before you start, get clear on like what it's all for. Like what does your life look like 5, 10 years down the road? And that way you have a barometer to kind of base how well you're doing. So that, and then also like just realizing that there's so many ups and downs and in business, and trying not to get too high or too low. You know, you're never as good as you think you are, and things are never as bad as you think that they are. So what I try to do is basically stay pretty balanced on the emotional scale. When things are really good, I'm not too high, and when things go super bad, you know, I try not to get too down about it.
So, Kurt, I think this is the $1 billion question. Like, what do you do to recover when you get kicked in the face?
Yeah, I try to remind myself of previous wins. I tell myself that it's a part of the journey, you know, because it is. Without losses, I mean, wins aren't as sweet. So I just do it. I try not to sulk over it. I get over it very quickly, which took time. I mean, honestly, it took time. When I first got started in real estate and a deal would fall through, I would feel sorry for myself and poor me and sulk on it. But now I've just realized that it's part of the journey. It's part of business. I look back at all the great things that I've done already and know that there's a whole lot more great coming. So that's kind of how I deal with that.
So early on, Kurt, what was the biggest, fattest lie you told to yourself when you started in your business? And I'll give you an example, right? And because for me, starting in the professional beauty industry when I was 19 years old. I didn't know anything. I had a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken before that, and I remember like cutting some woman's hair, and it was jacked up, and I knew it was jacked up, like it was bad, it was real bad. And the lie that I told to myself was, she's crazy. Like don't even worry about it, Kelly. She's just crazy. So what was the biggest, fattest lie you told to yourself, and now you look back at it and you giggle and laugh because you know you're lying?
Yeah, that I'm gonna get super rich super quick in real estate. That was the biggest lie that I told myself, and that if I got into real estate and worked hard for 4 or 5 years, that I would never have to work again. That is also a lie. But yeah, I mean, really the goal through real estate for me is to build up enough rentals to where I don't have to make decisions every single day for money. If the money comes, great, you know, but I don't want to have to live every single day hunting for money. So that's why every time I get a rental or add to the passive income box, I'm just one step closer to basically living to where I don't have to make decisions about money. You know, I can just do what I feel is right for me.
How have you been able to, because it seems like, and this is a big thing that helped me to want to be more of your friend, was you seem to look past the deal and into the relationship, right? And so, I mean, take us through that, because, I mean, there's a lot of times in this world, man, where people get blinded by the transaction, man. And there's a guy named Jim DiGiulio. He actually is the owner of Volvo. What is it? Finley Volvo, Las Vegas. And this guy, honestly, he owns a car lot, and he's told me no, not to buy his cars more than he's told me to buy his cars. Because, and seriously, he's done this with me. He's done this with my dad. But
want you to buy a piece of junk.
And it's crazy because he does it, and I'm like, every person that I talk to, I'm telling them, you need to go see Jim. It's going across the screen right now. Finley Volvo Cars, LV.com. That's where you need to buy your car, because this is a guy who will actually tell you not to buy something if it's not the best thing for you. How do you do that, Kurt? Because I've watched you do it. I've watched you interact with people, and you're never deal first. It was always just about them. You were always constantly asking them questions. You know, you were connected that way.
Well, to me, the relationships are just worth so much more. They're so much more fulfilling than the money. I mean, once you realize that, like, you can make money pretty easily, and there's an abundance of money out there. But good relationships are super rare, especially, you know, with people that are on similar wavelengths as you. It's way more important in life to me, and I realize it's a lot rarer to have good relationships with people than to just worry about money or put money over people. It seems silly to me.
What advice would you have for people out there that are starting off on their entrepreneurial journey, or even if they're not in that realm, that they are an employee of a company? And I want to shout out to every single person who's an employee of a company, because I'm telling you, like, not every single person, like, it's not like Kurt and I both tell you, we'll plead with you. Owning your own business isn't just making your own schedule, doing what you want, making the agenda. It's not, you know, and I want to shout out all those people who are employees of companies and who have had longevity, because honestly, like, I just think that it's an amazing thing. And I think it helps this economy to tick.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what advice would you have, you know, for those, you know, whether it be entrepreneurs or the people that are, you know, employees of companies? What advice would you have for them when it comes to that, you know, as far as the relationship side and looking long-term and helping them? I mean, how would you convince me? Because most of the time we live in a society where people want results right now. They want it, pop it in the microwave for a minute and then pull it out. And then they're watching and they're seeing, hey, well, if I take the slow route, Kurt, like you're talking about with the relationship, I'm watching Joe Blow, you know, just crush things. This is the word of today. Like, I'm crushing this.
Yeah.
How do you convince me, if I'm sitting in that place, to slow it down and focus on the relationship, man?
Well, I think it starts with really truly believing that there's an abundance of money. I think that's step one, is realizing that money's not this scarce thing. It's not this thing that is supposed to be cherished and held onto and hoarded. You know, money is a tool. It's there in my life whenever I need it, and it's there in your life whenever you need it. You just have to be able to have that mindset that it is. So I think that's step one. And then once you get over the fact that you need money, you stop basically making decisions based upon money. You can really value relationships more, which in the long run are more fulfilling, because if you have all the money in the world, but you don't have fulfilling relationships, it's not a good life. And it took me experience. I had to go through basically getting money to realize that it wasn't all that I thought it would be. Because when you're broke and you don't have money, you think that it's going to fix all your problems and change your life. And then, you know, once you get money, it's like, well, that just kind of solved the money problem. You know, I still have all these other issues. And, you know, I have friends that I've had for 30 years, literally my whole entire life. So that to me is just, it's worth so much more than any paycheck.
What was the biggest surprise to you? Because, you know, I think that we probably went through some similar things where when money was scarce, then I was like, man, all I need is this much a year. And if I could get that, everything would be cool, man. Like, and then I would hear people be like, yo, and I would hear people say that, the relationship part, they would be like, no, it's about the relationship. And I'd be like, obviously you ain't broke right now. Because if you were broke, then you would think that, I mean, maybe I'll trade in a couple of these friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm like the Brooklyn Nets right now. I'm going to trade in KD and try and get somebody else, which KD doesn't need to go to the Warriors, by the way. If you're out there listening and you're a Dub fan, he doesn't need to go to the Warriors because we don't need him. We don't need him. Stay wherever you're at, but we don't need you. The Sun, oh, yeah, but they're saying that they're saying that they want D Booker. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You trade up Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is going to be a good piece inside together with someone, but you can't build around him. We already showed that. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got off on the KD thing. Where was I?
What were we talking about? You were about to bring up how relationships.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I remember that happening in my life as far as like, I want to be the first one. I want to be the first one to show that, you know, maybe it is about money. And then it started flowing, and I was like, damn, I still got the same problems that I did before, except I've just got more of this thing that generally causes a lot of the challenges that go about. So what was the most shocking thing for you that you thought would be solved with money that wasn't solved with money, and you were like, oh my gosh, like, can you recall a specific time or a thing?
I can, yeah. I remember like when I was pretty broke and I first moved out here, I don't know, I had like maybe a couple thousand in my checking account, and I would close the deal where I was going to personally make 26,000. And I remember like checking my bank account, like waiting for the wire to come in and it to like hit my account. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd refresh the phone and it wouldn't be there. And I'd refresh the phone, it wouldn't be there. And then boom, all of a sudden it was there, and I had 30-something thousand in my checking account. It was more than I ever had. And I like felt really good for like 30 seconds. I put my phone back in my pocket and I realized nothing has changed in my life. And that's when I realized it's really just a number in your phone. It's really just it's a made up thing, right? So that was an immediate lesson. It really doesn't change how you feel about yourself. You have to work on that. That has nothing to do with money.
So, Kurt, the whole reason why I started the podcast, man, is because of my kids, right? And Maddox and McKenna. And I don't know if you got a chance to see any videos of my son, but if you're out there and you're listening, or Kurt, you know, you've been riding with me on social media and things like that, you see my son. He's just hilarious, man. Like last night, he was all about s'mores. S'mores was like the biggest thing in his life. I got home, he's like, Daddy, we gonna do s'mores? I said, yes. He said, we're gonna go to the store and get some Reese's, and we're gonna use them as the chocolate, and that's the best s'more right there. And we did the Reese's on there and melt the marshmallow, put it on top. It was a perfect s'more. It's amazing. He's excited about everything. He's a superhero. McKenna, 13 years old, amazing young lady, amazing artist, heartfelt. I think she's going to be a phenomenal actress. But I started the podcast because I wanted to show both of them, Maddox and McKenna, that iconic people like yourself weren't superheroes, that they were just human beings, and they had great attitudes and had phenomenal work ethic. And if you continue to do the right thing for the right reasons, the right things turn out. And so what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both of their names, it would be awesome.
Wow. Maddox, McKenna, make sure you make decisions for yourself in life. Figure out what it is that you truly want in life and go for it. Don't try to make your dad happy. Don't try to make society happy. Do what really truly makes you happy, and figure out what that looks like, what your life looks like, and go for that.
Kurt, I want to tell you that you have been absolutely phenomenal today, man. It has been an absolute pleasure. This is the time when I want to thank all our sponsors. I didn't say them at first, but I want to thank you. I want to thank every single person out there that's been listening and been riding with us since the beginning of the podcast. Helped us to be get in the top 1% globally. But also with our sponsors, we couldn't have done it without you. We've got Michael Mina. Michael Mina, greatest restaurants in the whole entire world, and even better human being. Patrick Hummel is the president of that company, and this guy, they're changing the culinary world. If you haven't got a chance to experience a Michael Mina restaurant, you need to go and you need to check it out. It's on a completely other level. Samaritan's Feet. Samaritan's Feet, Manny, a homie. He started off with no shoes. He's put shoes on over 10 million people because he knew what it felt like to not have shoes on his feet. Cardenas Law Group. Cardenas Law Group, boutique law group in Las Vegas, and honestly, it's the greatest in the world to have the best in the world in your corner exactly when you need them. and was squeeze dried. Squeeze dried, for those of you who have a challenge, getting your vegetables, getting your fruits in every single day. All you have to do is open up the little pack. It's a little stick. You drop it in your water. You got all of that, and it's squeeze dried. It makes your life so very, 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 very simple. Finley Volvo Cars of Las Vegas. I talked quickly about him, before, and I was talking about Jim DiGiulio. Jim DiGiulio is all about relationship before transaction. And if you're going to buy a car, I tell you, there is no other place on earth that I would tell you to go buy a car than Finley Volvo of Las Vegas. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. The last one, guys, is Solo. For those of you out there who are, whether you're a social media influencer, you are any type of business person, solo.to. This, I hope I said the website right, but Solo is amazing. It's a one link that gives you, that's for all of your links. And for me, before I was sending out 50,000 links to every single person for the podcast, for the books, for all these things. And what I realized was all I needed was one, and it was Solo, and it made everything there. And I want to thank you guys. I want to make sure that you check out the sponsors, check out those people. And Kurt, I want to thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast. Like, it's who you are. I mean, it lifts me up, man. When I saw you, right when we got on the call today, it's like, seeing you and you brighten up the world, man. And I thank you so much. I know we're going to have the link so people can get a hold of you in the bio. Cool. Before we go, your legacy, how do you want people to remember Kurt?
I want people to remember me as somebody that really changed my life, that lived super intentionally, and that was able to make something out of himself and be someone that was a role model.
Well, Kurt, I think you've already accomplished that, man. I mean, you're an incredible dude. You're an awesome individual. And not only that, but I love seeing masters at their craft. And then I like to know who they are. I like to know who they are before I like to know what they do. But I mean, honestly, if who you are is any indication of what you're going to accomplish, ain't nothing to worry about in your career, man. You got it. So, dude, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for being here, and I can't wait to have you back. I'm excited to see you at the Hideout September 23rd through the 25th. That's going to be a lot of fun too, man. We got some surprises for you coming. Which will be cool. But thank you again, brother. I appreciate you, and you're officially off the hot seat.